Welcome back to the RusNkaZ Show. I'm your host, BamBam. Tonight, we're talking about the one thing that killed a business faster than bad Yelp reviews and a TikTok boycott combined, a government takeover. One day, you get to a grocery store with 10 brands of cereal fighting for your breakfast bowl. The next day, the government swoops in and says, "Congratulations, citizen. You now get one box of state approved flakes." And they taste like cardboard soaked in regret. But hey, equality. And here's the kicker, they call this progress. Progress towards what? Towards standing in line so long you start a second family in the bread quo? Progress towards ration cars that make you feel like you're in a dystopian Monopoly game? Or progress towards the magical world where abundance disappears faster than your paycheck on the tax day? So buckle up, because tonight we're going to walk through real world examples of how governments hijacked free enterprise, from corner shops to entire countries, and why history proves they're the worst business partners since Blockbuster teamed up with VHS.
This is the rules and cash show. Bam Bam calling shots like a maestro. This is the rules and cash show. Where the wild and the crazy grow. Turn it up, feel the rhythm flow. Hustle rock, bam bam. Let's go, let's go.
Picture this, Havana, 1960s. You walk into your neighborhood grocery store. The butcher knows your name. The baker slips you an extra roll. The cashier actually smiles at you. Then one morning, the government says, "Surprise! We own this now." Overnight, your friendly grocer becomes a state employee, your choices vanish, and the only thing left on the shelf is dust and disappointment. And what do they give you instead? Ration cards. That's right. Cuba institutionalized the art of waiting in line. It's like Disneyland, but instead of Mickey Mouse, you get half a chicken and a lecture on solidarity. Solidarity? More like starvation. Free enterprise is about abundance. Competition makes sure that you get 10 brands of cereal fighting for your breakfast bowl for your that $1 that you have. Government takeover means one brand, one box, and if you complain, congratulations, you're the enemy of the state now. Enjoy your ration in silence, please. And here's the irony, government promised to eliminate exploitation. Instead, they eliminated groceries. You can't exploit what doesn't exist. That's not progress, that's a magic trick. Watch, the food will disappear. Boom. You come in and it's gone. And the applause comes from bureaucrats who caused it. Markets correct mistakes. Governments institutionalize them. And in Cuba, they institutionalized hunger and called it equality. Everyone equally miserable, equally waiting, equally disappointed. And that's why after the USSR collapsed, Yeltsin, he wanted to rebuild Russia. He came to America to see why and how do Americans live so prosperous. And he was actually taken on a tour of all the big factories, all the big suppliers, the stores. And then he went into a local grocery store. And from all those stores, the thing that struck him the most, and so myself when I came to this nation, to this beautiful country, United States of America, is the groceries, the food, the abundant food, the number of choices that you have. Yeltsin couldn't believe it. He was shocked, straw shocked, just like I was, and everybody in my family. Groceries, there are so many groceries. What is going on? Right before coming to United States of America, I actually spent 3 months in a hospital because I couldn't walk, and they were saying that I'm never going to be able to walk. So right before coming to America, I was basically tied up to a bed. They took a weight, like a 10 or a 15 pound weight on each of my legs, and they tied me up to a bed in order to try to stretch my legs out. Can you guys comprehend what I'm saying? They put me on a bed and they tied weights to my legs at the end of the bed so they could stretch my legs out. And then they told me I will never be able to walk. When I got to America, I started eating all those groceries, those numerous amounts of it. So much oranges. I ate so many oranges. And all that it was not enough nutrition. Booyah! Not enough nutrition. They told me I will never walk because I didn't have enough vitamins in me. Not enough nutrition, malnutrition. And I was healed. I started running, working out, started doing MMA, and the rest is history, as they say. But it was that abundance, that variety of food that you can see, the choices that you have, and so much of it. It was just mesmerizing. That's why Yeltsin, he secretly told his people, but of course everybody talks, and everybody all over Russia and everywhere else, the word was like spread like wildfire the next day that he couldn't believe in abundance on variety of food. And just like I was gonna be paralyzed for life, supposedly, if I stayed back there, I would never be able to walk. And the only thing was, it was just oranges, vitamin C. All I had to do is just eat, get my nutrition in, and that's it. So, when you try to push this socialist agenda, I have a personal problem with that, a huge one. Since I mentioned healthcare just a second ago, I want to go into this little example. In 1948, Britain launched the NHS. Sounds noble, right? Universal coverage, free at the point of use. But here's the twist. They didn't just create a safety net, they swallowed up private clinics whole. Overnight, competition flatlined. And when competition flatlines, innovation goes into a coma. Everyone loves the idea of free healthcare. Free, free, free. Free healthcare for all. Free, 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 free. But they don't love is waiting 6 months for a hip replacement while the government debates whether your pain qualifies as urgent. Or maybe, sorry, we have to kind of qualify if you meet the criteria of being really in pain or just moderately in pain, because you might have a broken rib or your spleen ruptured. But please stand in line, because to do all that internal screening, we have to go through another procedure and a questionnaire that our psychology department has to look and recommend that we see you first. But please stand in line just behind 3 buildings back and 1 street over. Thank you. That's not healthcare. That's a reality show called Survivor Waiting Room Edition. In a free market, however, if one clinic makes you wait too long, guess what? You walk away and you go down the street to another one. In a government monopoly, you walk down the street and you find the same line, even if not bigger. Bureaucracy. The same doctors who's already on vacation, because they have absolutely no incentive to work any harder, because he's getting paid the same amount no matter if he works hard overtime or not. He's gonna get paid the same amount. Why should he even hurry up? Absolutely no incentive to work harder. Stagnation is what happens. Choice disappears, and suddenly you're praying for capitalism while sitting in a socialist waiting room. The NHS was sold as healthcare for all. What it delivered was waiting for all. Equality achieved. Everyone equally frustrated, equally miserable, equally delayed, equally stuck in the same quo. Markets correct mistakes. Governments institutionalize them. And in Britain, they institutionalize waiting. You don't get a doctor. You get a bureaucrat with a clipboard telling you to take a number. And that number, it's for next year. That brings me to this one clip that I saw when Patrick Bet-David, PPD, was debating anti-capitalist on Jubilee. And it reminds me of this one clip that I'd like to share and actually explain a few things about why this clip has absolutely no merit and no substance.
Breaking news. I can't read this, but I look amazing doing it.
Just read the top.
Oh, it says subscribe to my podcast.
My next claim is capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other system.
So I would argue that governments have actually lifted the most people out of poverty. China, for instance, had the most significant poverty reduction in all of human history. They pulled 800 million people out of poverty using state-owned enterprises and state centralized planning. Most of it was done through state-funded infrastructure, education, and contributing to strong literacy programs, redistributing the wealth.
In 1978, as the new Chinese Mao was coming to power, there was a group of 18 people in a Chinese village. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's called, I think, Shaozhang. They secretly gathered in order to write a document where each one of them would sign. There was 18 of them, and they debated, talked about it. They had to meet in secret because their country was a socialist communist country. When they were gathering, they were really, really scared in secret because they could easily be hanged or beheaded by their leaders. And what each individual will get from as voluntarily they go into what's called an agreement, or in free market society or free market enterprise is what we call a contract. And what was this contract all about? This contract specified they could keep a little bit for themselves. Each one will draw a piece of land, keep portion of it to yourself because you worked harder. Each family can keep a partial amount to themselves and give a portion to the government. One of the villagers actually asked, hey, do we share everything amongst each other? Yes, for the collective common good. Everything is gonna be distributed equally. So he said, what about the teeth in my head? The teeth in your head? Nope, not yours. They're for the collective bunch, for everyone. So he thought to himself, interesting. I work hard, I get the same. I don't work hard, I get the same. So people started to work not hard. That's right. When there is no incentive to do any work, nobody will do work. And that is what these socialists keep not understanding. They think that the system, the capitalistic system that actually created all this wealth, that they can go and distribute it amongst themselves and others to create equally. They're going to create equality of actual desperation and misery is what they're going to get. Because as soon as they're done equalizing all that wealth that was created through capitalistic system and make everything a socialist system, just like in China. And guess what happened next day? The next day, people didn't go out to work when the bell rang. They went out as soon as the sun was out of necessity, because people were being so lazy. They only went to do the work when they heard the bell, and everybody was slouching, walking slow, because there was no incentive, no motivation. As soon as they wrote that contract saying that they will get to keep a portion of what they make, competition arose, and they made more in that 1 month than in previous 5 months combined. Of course, they couldn't keep it a secret, because they just made so much food and nobody was begging anymore for any food. They were abundant, and of course the government actually heard, and they brought this contract and actually hang it in a museum and make the Chinese people look at it as an example of what you must do in your own village. So that girl, when she was saying that the government got all those people out of poverty, no, it didn't. The government actually had to step back, and the people, out of necessity and hunger, had to develop a capitalistic system to compete and keep what you get. The harder you work, the more you get. The more you bring value to the market, the more you earn, and the market pays you. And socialistic system, communism, will never, ever, ever achieve this. And as soon as they take all that wealth that was created by a capitalistic system because of competition and incentive, as soon as they socialize all of it and distribute all your wealth, who are they going to take? China went into an overdrive of abundance because they adopted a capitalistic system in their communistic regime. That contract is in a museum. Another reason, actually, China is that I believe Mao went to Japan and asked them of how they prospered, but that's besides the point. And another reason was because of small banks. I just wanted to mention that because that's actually right. It wasn't just a contract, it was actually small banks as well, which is part of a capitalistic system. Instead of a centralized government owning the bank and only giving a certain dollars to a certain amount of people. Venezuela once was an oil powerhouse. Engineers running rigs, money pouring in like no other. It was just like money, money, bunch of you raining on top of me. And then the government said, we'll handle it. And by handle it, they meant strangle it. They replaced engineers with bureaucrats, innovation with corruption, and production collapsed faster than a cheap lawn chair. Now Venezuela imports gasoline. Imagine living on top of an ocean of oil and still waiting in line for fuel. That's not irony, that's tragedy wrapped in bureaucracy. In the 1930s, this one hits close to home. In the 1930s, the Soviet Union seized private farms and forced collectivization. Farmers lost their land, innovation died, and famine followed. Millions starved, while propaganda reels showed smiling workers harvesting imaginary abundance. Millions starved to death because in 1930s socialist idea in the communist country USSR for one common good, the common goal for the collectivization. Farmers lost their land and abolished property ownership and seized the means of production. And that imaginary abundance that they were showing on their propaganda reels didn't feed nobody. And that's the socialist magic trick. Turn fertile farmland into a famine zones, and then sell posters of happy peasants as proof of success. Free enterprise feeds people. Government takeover feeds propaganda, and propaganda doesn't taste very good with salt. And I know it firsthand, because I lived there. Markets correct mistakes. Governments institutionalize them. How many times can I repeat myself? Venezuela institutionalized shortages. The USSR institutionalized hunger. And every time the people paid the price, while the bureaucrats cashed the slogans. So, here's the lesson, folks. Whether it's your corner grocery store, your local clinic, or an entire nation's industry, when government takes over free enterprise, freedom itself is the casualty. They promise equality, but what they deliver is equal misery. They promise abundance, but what they deliver is ration cards. They promise progress, but what they deliver is a quote that never ends. Free enterprise is messy, yeah, it's competitive. That's the nature of things. But by looking at any other economic system, by looking at any other nation, America is the most prosperous country on this earth, and it's all because of free market enterprises, free market economy. It's loud, but it works because competition forces mistakes to be corrected. Government takeover institutionalizes those mistakes, and once they're institutionalized, they become permanent fixtures like bad wallpaper. You just can't peel it off. So the next time someone tells you government control is the answer, remember Cuba's empty shelves, Britain's endless waiting rooms, Venezuela's abandoned oil rigs, and the Soviet Union's famine fields. That's not progress, that's regression. With a propaganda poster slapped on top, markets correct mistakes. Governments institutionalize them, and history proves it every single time. And those socialist Democrats need to look at some history lessons and actually understand. Ask any immigrant who actually lived in a communist socialist country, and they'll give you the answer right away. Call me, I'll give you the answer. Just ask any immigrant who came from a communist socialist country, and you will see the answer is always the same. Huge lines of a single product that never gets to your hands. But bureaucrats keep on talking about it and sending you down the next door. Every time government takes over free enterprise, it doesn't just kill competition, it kills prosperity. They promise equality but deliver scarcity. They promise progress but deliver paperwork. They promise freedom but deliver a quote. And the only thing they distribute efficiently? Blame. Free enterprise isn't perfect, but it's self-correcting. It's messy, it's loud, it's competitive. Because when businesses screw up, they go broke. When governments screw up, they get bigger. So next time someone says let the government run it, ask them how they feel about standing in line for toothpaste, waiting 6 months for a doctor, or pumping gas in a country that exports oil. Markets correct mistakes. Governments institutionalize them. And history doesn't whisper the truth. It screams it. I'm BamBam, and this has been the RusNkaZ Show. Thank you. Subscribe, comment, and like. See you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
Catch the wave, let your dreams ignite. In the world of business, reach new heights. Join the journey, hear the words unfold. BamBam's vision, turning stories to gold.